pleasure to meet you, man. Pleasure to meet you, and congratulations for winning the free suit. It's well deserved.
Thank you so much for you and beg your pardon. It was a absolute honour to be nominated, let alone to win. So thank you very much for the most generous prize, and look forward to wearing it with pride.
Oh, look, it's my pleasure, man, and what you're doing is amazing. I think the reason that I wanted to have a sit down with you is because I think it's important that we have this discussion, and you know, you can tell in your words, some of my followers, what it is that you do, and that will help illustrate why you won this. It was a very difficult decision. Joe and I, behind the camera there, poured over this for a while, and I think we've made the right decision in giving you the free suit. Tell us a bit about what you do.
I mean, the nickname I've been given by the Herald Sun is I'm the man most hated by Australian child sex offenders. So you work here, me too. But besides that, it's the best title to have. And I've been working in the space for about 13 years now, and I saw over the years all the injustice that a lot of victim survivors have, where there was a lot of legal loopholes that were being abused by offenders to actually hide their asset. And so almost 5 years ago, I started a campaign known as Super Survivors, where it's to try to close the loophole because the offenders could hide their assets in superannuation. And as soon as that happened, it's protected asset, it's safe from bankruptcy. And it was just a horrendous statistic that 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 5 boys will be sexually abused for their 18th birthday.
I found that shocking.
It is, and I do videos every day on, so every Friday on my Instagram page, highlighting the percentages of people charged in the district court. And every day there's about 25% of matters in the district court related to child sex abuse. So it's something that it's an epidemic at the moment that it's not ceasing. It's the kind of thing where we want to try to have uncomfortable conversation on this topic and to try and highlight to people how prevalent this is and how to actually protect children.
Yeah, and you're right. Look, I mentioned to you earlier, a good friend of mine is in Child Protection Services, and I've seen his journey in that space. I think it's important that we have these uncomfortable conversations. They are very uncomfortable, particularly when you actually hear the facts behind what's going on, the things that you have to deal with on a daily basis. I'm surprised that you've kept your sanity and you've persisted with this career for so long. That's super impressive. What advice would you give people that want to get involved and sort of help? Because people know that there's a problem. Obviously been a topic that's been much spoken about. We're talking particularly about, child sex offending and sex trafficking and all that sort of stuff. It's not just, it's not just Adelaide, it's not just Australia, but people don't realize it's not just Mexico. When you think about these things, you think about third world countries, you think about, developing countries. It's not just in developing countries.
No, the statistics are it's 80% incestual and 93% known. So that 93% is teachers, coaches, family members. So it's not the kind of thing where, it's not really the strange danger thing that you hear. And if you look at the start of the year, they had a lot of protests, rightfully so, for domestic violence.
Yeah.
Domestic violence occurs to 1 in every 6 women. Child sexual abuse is 1 in every 3 girls before 18. So you're twice as likely to be abused as a child than you will be to be abused as an adult. But the news never highlights this because, again, it's if you can identify the victim survivor, you can't nominate the perpetrator. So that's why you're not seeing it widely reported on a daily basis about how bad these numbers are. But it's the kind of thing, if you're a mother, father, grandparent, auntie, uncle, it's something that you need to be aware of what's happening and just look for warning signs in children. But it's an uncomfortable conversation that needs to be had to try and stamp out this. You think 20 years ago we never spoke about men's mental health. 30 years ago we never spoke about suicide. And once we started talking about it, people had support channels. There's an old saying, I'd rather have you crying on my shoulder than go to your funeral.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing with men, where a lot of people thought you can't speak out and be upset, but now constantly always checking your friends and make sure they're okay, and it's something that happens to more people than you actually think.
Absolutely, that was my generation. You suck it up, have a teaspoon of cement, rub some dirt on it. It's exactly right. But it's good that we have those conversations, and I think it's led us to this point where you're now seasoned at having these uncomfortable conversations. I think it's really hard to give this the attention it deserves because it doesn't make for good television.
No, it's definitely like the past 5 years, almost 5 years, this law change. It's constantly being told by politicians, no, it's too hard, or no, we don't want to do this. And it's not, I guess, the topic that a politician wants to take on board, because it's too polarizing. A lot of people want to turn the channel when this kind of thing comes on. It's like, you can watch an action movie, you can watch people getting shot and killed. The second there's someone hurts a dog in it, you just like can't watch it. Crime documentaries, for instance, they're the most popular documentaries and podcasts in Australia. Yeah. People would much rather hear about, blood and guts and shotguns and watch dead bodies than hear facts about what's happening to a child. And that's what we need to actually say is, this is the most prevalent crime in the country. It's something that needs to be looked at and more understood than anything, not just turn a blind eye, because the people turning a blind eye to it and saying, I don't want to hear about it, it's kind of the reason why law changes aren't progressing, because people aren't giving it the emphasis that it really needs.
So what do you do as someone like me, for instance? We want our politicians addressing these sorts of matters, and how do you motivate them? I know they want to win votes.
It's really starting at the people level. It's the more people talking about it, the more people that will be moving it. So if you look at the cost of living at the moment, if people didn't talk about how bad it was, you never hear about it. You go to a barbecue, you go to anywhere, it's cost of electricity, cost of groceries, cost of mortgage, and the more people talk about it, the more prevalent it becomes and more discussed. It's something like this. It's hey, did you hear about the stats? We need to protect your children. A little conversation started that way will go a long way to getting people to talk about it. It should be the factual scenario of this shouldn't be a dinner time conversation, but it should be definitely the way that person's talking to you is not okay. Right? Is there anything that's happening at school that you should tell us about? Talk about safety and
having those conversations with your kids, and also ensuring that your friends are aware of it and having that conversation with their kids. It's really hard sometimes, I suppose, to give other people advice on what to tell their kids.
Well, the average time frame it takes to report is 29.4 years.
That's ridiculous.
And so
that's just ridiculous.
It is, and that's the conviction rate in this field is about 99.997% of people that will be found not guilty. So there was a study from the Victorian Law Reform Institute from last year. Every 1,000 reports, only 100 get investigated by police, 6 get convicted, and 3 get overturned on appeal. So it's 3 every 1,000 get convicted.
That is insane.
And so you think, statistic-wise, on Sportsbet, the odds of Bob Katter and Pauline Hanson becoming the Prime Minister of Australia are the same statistics of someone getting convicted of child sexual abuse.
It's ludicrous.
It is, and so
ludicrous. So that just leaves no real impetus for people to then report.
And that's why I started the Super Survivor campaign, because a lot of offenders would simply say, hey, don't own a house, don't have anything, you can't touch me, I'll get away with this. But if you've worked since 1985, you have super. Yeah. Now, you look at driving on your phone, for instance. Like, you find a person that's never touched their phone in the car ever. It'll never happen. Yeah. But the reason why we don't drive to work every day texting, holding our phone, is the financial fine. It's not about, I might get caught. It's, I don't want to get fined for this. Yeah. Now, if you've got a 99.99% chance of getting off in a crime, what's a deterrent? But if you commit this crime, you'll lose your entire super. There's your retirement. There's your nest egg. That's up for grabs. You might stop and think, actually, now I have something to lose.
Yeah. Increasing that severity of punishment, and the ability to dish out that punishment.
Like, if you think if there's such a high acquittal rate in any crime, the government's going to close the loophole. There was a while ago with someone in court a certain kind of drug that wasn't actually covered under the legislation, so they changed legislation and charged the guy again because they saw there was a loophole. Now, what you're seeing here is that people are getting off left, right, and centre of these crimes. So why wouldn't you implement another element where it's going to not only deter but compensate the victims? Because in 2016, the cost of child abuse to the Australian public was $30.1 billion. Now, if you think the national debt is about $700 billion, if we start chipping away at that and saying the taxpayer is not going to indemnify these crimes anymore, we are going to put it on the actual offender themselves. You watch what $30 billion a year could do. That's probably 2 or 3 hospitals in every state. That's a few $1 million for every Australian, effectively.
It sounds almost a little bit distasteful to talk about this in financial terms, but that's the motivator, that it really is going to move the needle if you really create that consequence.
It is, or you think at what the good the money can do for the public, and it could be setting up rehabilitation centres for victim survivors to actually go and get treatment and work a comfortable life. So, yeah, it's definitely something that it needs to change. And I've said from day one, the only people against this law change will be the sex offenders themselves.
I noticed you've got your nail painted there.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what that's all about?
So yeah, I've been asked to be the South Australian ambassador for Polished Man. So every year in October, they're asking people to paint one nail blue to really have a conversation about familial and children violence. So
Okay.
it was a way to actually get people talking about it, where simply having someone with a one nail painted, it's always a thing. Hey,
Why is your nail painted?
and then you explain the cause and you explain what it's about, and it's again raising uncomfortable conversations about familial violence, domestic violence, how you can try and combat it and what you can do, because it's something that happens to a lot of people and it's still quite stigmatized. There's a lot of famous Australians that have come out to discuss it.
Yep.
Shayna Blaze on the Block actually runs a charity in Victoria on domestic violence. And it's something that, you see, I think to date there's been about 50 women that have unfortunately lost their lives so far this year in domestic violence in Australia. And it's about an average one in every 4.5 days. A female loses her life to domestic violence. And it's definitely something that, again, needs to be a conversation starter and to talk about. And yeah, something simple as painting your nail, one nail, and it's really, I can't really do it properly, but it's to really give
it okay?
give the camera the finger.
Is it okay?
But yeah, it's just another thing
For the Polished Man.
yeah, it's just a very subtle way to actually say this is another issue that we need to face. And I mean, it was great to be involved. I mean, I've been doing a lot of victim work for many, many years, and to be asked to be a part of a great organisation like this, it's a great tip of the hat of recognition of, I guess, what I've been doing.
Yeah, and it's amazing what you're doing. And we want you to keep doing it. I mean, you're fighting the good fight for a lot of people. And I suppose you're in a position where you can. You're a lawyer, so
Yeah, well,
the law.
I thought years ago when I started law change that it would have been passed by now. Like I said, it was a no-brainer, and it still hasn't been done. And I've had so many people disclose to me and say how they want to come forward, but they're not ready yet. And being the voice of the voiceless is something that I love. And people think it's weird because I was never abused as a child. It was never happened to me. It's happened to a lot of people I know, but it was one thing where I kept on seeing how many people got away with this and how they were able to hide their assets. And I thought, well, if no one's going to do anything about it, I might.
Yeah. They go with people like you. That's very, very good. I think. Yeah, I want people that are culprits of this sort of behaviour to sleep very uneasily knowing that you're around. So I think you've done an amazing job, and I'm really happy to be making you a soon. So I think we should get stuck into that and choose some fabrics. I like that you're a bit adventurous with your suitcase. You're doing a check here. This is aggression check. You may not be able to see it on the camera, but this is a very tasteful check on the suit. Let's have a look at some fabrics.
Love to.
Cool.